put it to just kind of dropped it off with that. But in working with, I do a lot of training. My actual true customers are the community colleges in the state of Iowa. I don't really hardly do basically no marketing, and they sell my services, and so I build them, and then they work through the businesses that way. Well, in working with some of my counterparts, originally I wanted to put together like a sales training, as I was thinking, I see the need for that, and working with one of my counterparts. He said, what I really see, and this is true, when I worked at the college, I didn't feel like we did a lot of stuff for the retail. We did a lot of stuff for manufacturers and things like that, but really never did a whole lot for retailers. So bottom line, I was talking to him and said, I think that would be something we really should do. Maybe, I don't know if I want to really call it customer service or it was sales training, but more of a customer/sales thing, because really how to treat customers now. My approach to training that I generally do, like Deb had said, my business slogan is making common sense common practice. I'm not a big theory-based trainer. I'd rather do hands-on things that really people can pick up and actually apply. And one of the components I do in one of my leadership training classes is I identify with my leaders. I'll say, what are the top 5 characteristics of a good leader? And they will give me, and then we break that down, these 5 things, like develop kinship with their people, they set good expectations, deliver that. Okay, those sound good on paper, they're good when I put them on a projector on the wall, but what I really actually do is then have them flesh those out. So when we say, how do you really develop kinship with somebody, what do you really do? I actually have them working together, and then what they do is say, well, here's how I do it. And it's interesting is how fast they pick up from each other that, hey, that's a great idea, and that's something that's really good. So that I wanted to carry that same kind of philosophy over, saying, as a retail person, what are the top, and I don't have the experience in retail, but I know I have the experience of training, and that's what I wanted to kind of work with you guys to be able to try to put that together. If we put together and say, here are the top 5 things that we'd look at for retail, or the characteristics of somebody that does good in that. Then we have those 5 things, and then what I would do is develop a class off of those 5 components. And then what I envision the class would be anywhere from 2 hours long to possibly 3 hours. But what they do is I actually would speak for probably about the first 45 minutes of that, saying, here's this concept. And so we had a class in here, then what you guys would do is I would have you get up in front of the rest of the group and say, okay, you just had a customer walk in, now practice that. And they actually demonstrate it in front of the class. So let's say that you guys are doing that. While you're doing that, what we would be doing is sitting back, giving you guys feedback about that, and say, Deb, here's the way you handle this. I really like that. When you talk to Sarah this way, I think that was good. Or maybe here's something to work on. So what we're doing is giving you feedback about that. All right. Then what they would do, that kind of quasi their assignment over the next, if we meet maybe every other week or whatever, next 2 weeks, you guys kind of pay attention to that, and then bring back, we'll start our class, what's working, what's not working, and then here's our next concept. And then we go into that, and then they practice that. So ultimately, every class, they're actually going to practice it. They'll actually do those till we get to the very last class. And then what I was thinking it'd be kind of fun to do if I just brought in, they have all that stuff there, and then what they do, kind of like their final, is at the very end, maybe I have a ketchup bottle there and say, okay, here's their product. Turn around and sell that to your people using those things. And I'm gonna just randomly pull somebody up. You're up in front, and then we critique you, and then we give you feedback about those. When I do that for my leadership classes, they hate it at the very beginning. It's very difficult. People don't want to get up in front, but once they do it, it intrigues me. If I have a class of 15 people, the first 3 or 4 really struggle with it. But by the time we're getting to the end, they're just wrapping it off because they've picked up so much stuff just by, man, Sarah, I love the way she did that, and I want to try to do it the way she did it. And they just pick stuff up that just goes real rapidly that way. So rather than buying a lot of materials and things like that, we can develop that and then actually have them practice that. Most people learn best by actually doing, just right. Actually practicing it and then being able to do those. And so that's the direction I want to do. And I talked with Deb as well with that. If I just need some of that guidance because my background's not in that area. I mean, I understand it from the shopper side of it, but not necessarily the business owner. But that's kind of what I pitched to you guys, and if you think about that, if that would be something I would love to pilot with you guys to work with that. That's ultimately my goal, is to be able to do that and work with other chamber directors throughout the state, and that's just one other additional training that I can actually do.
So it's not, how much does it cost?
I haven't really figured out. I'm thinking kind of what my thinking was. I'd probably do it per cost per person is what we do, and I'm looking at probably $125 per person is what they do to go through that. I mean, that would be, if you comparable to that, if you looked at like a skill path seminar or some of the different ones, I don't know if you see those, they will be for a 6-hour training. You'll pay $275 for a 6-hour training. They'll drive to Des Moines, they'll go to that training, and then they'll ask it, because I've sent people to those, I used to utilize them. They'll sit in the back of the room, they'll ask the instructor, I have a question about that, and the instructor say, well, let me get to that. If I get to it, I'll hit it at the end. Or we just happen to sell extra books. If you want to buy the book, you do that. And what they want you to do is buy their books. And I don't do that. I mean, if somebody in my leadership classes now that I even teach, if somebody asks a question, we'll stop right then and there. That's not uncommon. For all my classes I teach now are all about 3-hour-long sessions, what we do. If somebody, we might spend 45 minutes in a session talking about, hey, I had an issue at work just the other day. My people learn so fast from that, just because, man, that's something that we have, that kind of issue or whatever that we do along those. So that's kind of a thumbnail. That's what I would anticipate.
So you're looking
that would be
at
comparable.
Five
2 to
sessions,
3 hour
sessions,
right? So
spread out over.
We basically go either. Probably bi-weekly is probably about realistic that you would do with something like that. So, and it would be.
I'm sorry, where am I going to come up with the time to do this?
Well, that's
I am a business owner, and I don't have the time to give to a training seminar. I mean, I've already got the degree. I already have taken the marketing classes that you're talking about. Okay, I don't have the extra time or the money to be giving off for something like that. I don't.
But the time that you don't invest them, do you calculate what you're possibly losing that way? Yeah.
My calculations are the fact that I'm not getting enough customer base in my business as it is now to even warrant what you're proposing. I don't have it.
So you're a sole proprietor.
I'm a sole proprietor.
Okay. And he doesn't have employees currently that he'd be sending to this class. So that's the difference.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a frustration there. You know, I hear a lot of, spend your money that's going to be for your family to a training seminar of one way, shape, or form. When I don't even have that, that doesn't make sense to me, and I won't do that.
Yeah, that's reasonable. I mean, I lose customers that don't want to do stuff with me. I'm a sole proprietor too. I mean, I travel the state and try to help groups by developing.
I mean, I appreciate what you're doing, and I'm not trying to knock you down. But just the truth and the fact is that here in Webster City, we need to push our businesses here in Webster City to people to actually stick in town, to actually shop here.
We do.
And not go out of town.
Yeah.
But we also have to consider all our businesses, Tim. All of them. We have Casey's, we have larger front-end tourism business that chase business out of town because they're not handling people that are coming through town correctly.
Right.
The customer service is a big part of
Absolutely.
that. Okay, so this is where this is why I'm recording it. This is where this is of really great value. And when you hire new employees, if we can, for those of our companies that are not just single owners, that have more employees, that are unable to give them the time or the training that they need for a skill path course where you're traveling to Des Moines 5 times and you're paying $275. This is a